few years ago, a television show captured America's imagination like never before. With a powerful style of storytelling combining outrageous plot lines, dramatic plot twists, and riveting over-the-top characters, Americans became addicted to it, with millions actually thinking it was real. Obviously, it's not. There's no way something this insane could ever actually be real. It's a fictional TV show called American Emperor. Like Succession, Game of Thrones, and Breaking Bad, all rolled into one. Each week, this podcast goes behind the scenes to break down each episode, talking to insiders and fans to bring you everything you need to know. This is Talking Trump, the American Emperor Aftershow. This week, part 2 of a powerhouse episode. The Trump character's cabinet continues to take shape. Unfortunately, it's the shape of a turd destined to destroy the country. A parade of nominees go before the Senate, but do these breathtakingly unqualified weirdos have any chance at being confirmed?
The senator from Virginia starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. We've all made mistakes. The only reason why I'm here and not in prison is because my wife loved me too.
Yeah, probably a good one. Plus, the government is officially turned over to an insane, mentally ill rich person. Will Donald Trump do anything to stop it? Billionaires shamelessly fall over each other trying to kiss the Trump character's ass. These guys haven't looked this pathetic since they decided to leave the house after dressing themselves. And the Trump character goes on a rampage, calling Canada the 51st state. Is he trying to intimidate them, or does he just need affordable health insurance? And what the fuck is up with Donald Trump's new headshot? Does Snapchat have a new murderer filter? This is what the refrigerator sees at 2 a.m. right before the turkey leg gets it. It's a dizzying episode with storylines introduced and resolved at a frantic pace. This is Talking Trump, the American Emperor Aftershow.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm Christopher Lansing. I'm joined by author, filmmaker, and pop culture critic Tom Robb. This is part 2 of our episode covering the blockbuster inauguration. Now, we left off at the parties. The Trump character signed a number of executive orders at a tiny desk. I mean, are they playing it for laughs? There's a lot of nerd shit going on here. Is it a theme of the season going to be like playing to nerds? Because they had the Zuckerberg character talk and comment about a new masculinity. What were your thoughts on that?
Anytime you hear about people talking about a new masculinity, it's usually said by a character who's extremely feminine, redefining masculinity as not masculine. As far as tiny desks go, I think that's another way this character defies the norms, breaks out of orthodoxy. We're going to see a sort of kindergarten atmosphere. We're going to see a lot of things done with finger paint, a lot of bills signed on the floor, naps on little mats of entire cabinets, like in nursery school. We're going to see people wearing their dad's business shirts that are worn out, turned backwards as smocks, conducting business that way. It's a way of saying, fuck you, we're back to kindergarten.
Now, it's a move thematically that really is rarely done. It was done in the very, very dark drama way back in the 80s, the Revenge of the Nerds, which was a landmark work on nerd culture. A lot of people mistook it as a comedy, but it's very dark overtones, especially when you get to the end and the actual Revenge of the Nerds is a non-consensual sexual act between a nerd and a very, very beautiful cheerleader who has a bright future ahead of her and is just merely chosen to be with an alpha male. So anyway, that was a dark moment that was covered on nerd culture. I believe that Revenge of the Nerds was in part a documentary too. I may be remembering it wrong. Here we have these nerd characters coming forth and putting their stamp on what they will permit the rest of us non-nerds to do. Are they taking elements of the Revenge of the Nerds film from that experimental period of time where filmmakers were just exploring these dark themes in the 80s?
Well, there's no doubt that Revenge of the Nerds is a masterpiece, like Porky's or Police Academy 5 and a Bible from which these writers borrow a great deal of profundity about the roles of men and women, different kinds of male posturing, from alpha down to omega males. We see an omega male in the form of Zuckerberg, redefining how men are thought of in a way that's more flattering to his own shortcomings.
Let's get back to the executive orders that the Trump character signed, because that was a huge theme of that episode. The biggest headline here is the Trump character pardoning those that took part in the January 6th riots, which was the season finale of season 1. Here it is, full circle. He's being inaugurated. He's in the rotunda that was at one time covered with these rioters' poop. They had knocked down things. They were carrying Confederate flags. Here he is, the day that he's sworn in again. He is pardoning them. They are all going to be released. Records will be expunged. Do you think that the Trump character is forming his own Trump army?
I think that it had to do, if I'm a writer, with some choice characters that you want to see not just in prison. You know, that wonderful high priest with the horns and the bearskin situation. You're going to want to have as a major cabinet advisor, a White House chief of staff or something. And same with the Proud Boys. So I think it's a desire to not waste characters and have an entire prison section of the show.
You're leading me to this next question. These people that were released, they're called J6ers or January 6ers. By the way, pretty good name for them. What are they going to do when they get out? Well, when they were in jail, they were known for their work in this chorus, but really that was more of the audacity of them singing the national anthem after they had pooped on the idea of what this country stands for and the idea of free elections. So I hope they're not looking to put out more music, because as a band, they suck. So is it just natural that they are going to come out and they're going to be an army among citizens? Will we be seeing physical confrontations, war down the road? And will that army be at the core of it?
I think absolutely. And we're going to see this army performing tasks that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Digging tunnels under the White House, places to keep hostages and whatnot. I think we can look for this to be a really interesting new set of characters.
You mentioned the person with the Viking helmet and the bearskin. Due to this pardon, and now that his record is expunged, are we going to be seeing more of the Auschwitz hoodie guy? Are we going to see that guy's life? Because now he's eligible to work at a Best Buy, because he doesn't have to fill out that part of the application where it says, were you convicted of a felony? He doesn't have that on a record. Talk a little bit about if we're going to see him again, and then also touch on the horrible backfiring decision of the marketing team initiative behind the Auschwitz hoodie that he had worn. A real gamble by the marketing team and the merchandising team. They have to be regretting that, right?
So I think that was an overreach. I think the pardoning is about a do-over. There's no question in my mind that all these characters will start new felony records right away. And this is just a way of starting from a clean slate. But we'll see them all committing crimes in the very near future episodes.
Okay, and the Trump character sounded serious about ending the birthright citizenship aspect of the Constitution. Now, keep in mind, both Eric and Don Jr. were born to Trump's first wife, Ivana, who was not yet a citizen when she had him. Is this whole thing where he's trying to eliminate birthright citizenship about deporting Eric Trump and the Don Trump Jr. characters?
I think it is. I think it's a way to give them a window of exit.
He signed a number of these executive orders, and it was a major theme throughout the episode. Some of them were pretty outrageous. He did sign an executive order saying that all people must type with mittens on, and that's going to make it difficult to type. It's going to increase the amount of typos that you see. I also saw that he signed something that said they now must play defense at the NBA All-Star game. Hard to enforce. What other executive orders did you notice?
A number of sports-related ones. He wants boxing matches to go back to this Jack Johnson era of 72 rounds. He wants football, one team to play offense and defense. It's one of the things that Elon Musk wants. I'm not sure he understands sports or football, but they think it's a waste to have an offense and a defense. And
they want 11 guys on both sides.
Yeah,
all time.
Exactly. They don't care about brain injuries. They want to make sure that every team is cut in half by size and getting rid of extraneous things like special teams. He thinks sheets on beds have too high a thread count. They're going to cut that down. He's having the MyPillow guy aid him in that.
He signed one that said, no Caucasians can have dreadlocks unless they are baristas. Is that the beginning of a slippery slope?
And I'd be concerned if I had a man bun, because you fall into a gray area. And that's something that this character has never understood. He doesn't know whether it's spiritual or sensitive or shows you're so macho you can have a girlish hairstyle. This is something that is debated on the show, as we know, in cabinet meetings all the time. And then the stuff about automotive stuff, that all families need to go to and from school in a funny car. We're going to see changes in every walk of life in this show.
Some of the new characters that they're teeing up for us for this upcoming season, they're going to be within his cabinet, and his cabinet is still being formulated. So let's run through a couple of these people. Let's bring out a round of Sizzle or Fizzle.
Fizzle.
The first on the list is this new Secretary of Defense. Congratulations, he made it. A character of Pete Hegseth. To me, it's very dynamic, because I love how arguably one of the most important jobs in the world could possibly go to a guy who couldn't even be a lead on a Fox morning show. I mean, who do we want running the Pentagon? How about a guy who couldn't beat out Steve Doocy? Brilliant. I say big sizzle on this. What do you think for Pete Hegseth?
You know, I believe this is a kind of fake right, fake left, and we're going to see characters, and this is because I have a little inside information from other past shows come in and replace these people. So I wouldn't be surprised if Hegseth is replaced by an Urkel or Natalie from Facts of Life.
So you give him a fizzle or a sizzle?
I give him a sizzle.
All right, how about the next one up? The Director of National Intelligence, this character of Tulsi Gabbard, who's going to be in the spotlight in this upcoming episode. She had a cameo in season 1, mostly forgotten, but they've slowly been building her. Essentially, she's a spy for the Putin character. Is there a Putin romance with her coming? I feel like they're amping up the stakes with her considerably. I'm going to give her a sizzle. I just think that the storyline will be dynamic. So sizzle for me on that one. What do you think?
Oh, sizzle. I think we can look forward to full frontal nudity, an affair with the Putin character, secret liaisons in the Balkans. I think we're going to see a lot of exciting stuff.
Next one up is this head of the FBI character, Kash Patel. I mean, they're not even being subtle here. His name, Kash. I think the writers and producers see a great opportunity to see this guy running the FBI as a loose cannon, promising to go after critics, shake things up. My prediction is he actually will formally change the FBI to stand for female body inspectors. Big sizzle for me on this one. Your thoughts?
I agree completely. And this is a very distinguished actor we've seen in Gandhi and Passage to India. I think we're going to see some really amazing things. Body inspector, of course. Oh, sizzle.
Now, let's do a speed round here. I just need a sizzle or a fizzle. This Linda McMahon character. This show has so many things to do with professional wrestling thematically. I'm going to give it a sizzle here, because I just want to see like what she does in the Department of Education. Clearly, we're going to be seeing battle royales with children involved. Complete sizzle from me on this one.
I say fizzle. Because she's going to be replaced by an actual wrestler.
Oh, very good, very good. This Pam Bondi character, something happened with the Gates character being positioned for the Attorney General. Now she's in there. I think there was a rare misstep for the show. They had a perfect character in the Gates thing. Then something happened with his contract. I don't know. We'll find out in the coming weeks, I'm sure. They bring in this Bondi character. She's got blonde hair. That's about it. Fizzle for me.
Fizzle for me, too. I agree with you completely.
Now, Kristi Noem is now made a full comeback. She is now in the cabinet. And I'm going to say, for a long time, I was a fizzle on her.
Fizzle.
Guess what? Last week, I was bitten by a dog. So now, fuck dogs now. Sizzle for Noem.
Sizzle.
Sizzle.
I'm seeing concentration camps for pets under her. And
you're right. She wants to kill animals. She's made it clear. They've built credibility in her backstory.
This is not a time to have a pet shop.
Well, I wasn't going going to do this because she's not really, as of this recording, up for a cabinet job. But let's talk about this new Lauren Sanchez character. We talked about her in our earlier episode, the Bezos girlfriend. They bring her out of the stage in the inaugural. She almost steals the show. But what do we make of her? Is she the great billionaire seducer? I mean, look how these guys are looking at her. Will she be a force against billionaires? Will she have Bezos is in her pocket? Will it soon be Musk? Will it soon be Zuckerberg? It's hard to not be a sizzle for her.
Sizzle.
Yeah, it's a sizzle.
Sizzle.
She's going to move through every billionaire.
Forget about the billionaires. I heard right before the Trump character speech, Mitch McConnell actually had died, and they propped his eyes open with toothpicks as she walked by. It was like a smelling salt to him. Not only was he all of a sudden alive, but he had a MT4HB, which, as you know, stands for a more than 4-hour boner.
More than a 4-hour boner.
I mean, the guy is surrounded by doctors no matter what, but normally they'd be contacting a team of doctors for that. So, yeah, she's a powerhouse, big sizzle. Can't wait to see what she does next.
Yeah, I totally agree. Apparently, the same thing happened to Newt Gingrich. Just like shock panels on a heart patient, suddenly up and fully erect.
Touch on the billionaires one more time here. They're hitting us over the head with them. The Zuckerberg character originally paid money to throw a party for the Trump character after his inauguration. They filmed it. They felt that it wasn't airable. It involved men wearing full-bodied pajamas, cuddling, watching scary German films that were not dubbed correctly. What were some of the things in that original version of what Zuckerberg would consider a celebration that didn't make the air?
There was an in-house salon where everybody could get a hair makeover. We've talked about his hair. It looks like Richard Simmons or Leo Sayer. That turned out to be a non-starter. Then it was an all-nude orgy, and a lot of them don't have attractive bodies.
Right. And also I heard from that scene, the pixelation was not necessarily required in a matter of like censorship for airplay, but more of a personal choice, you know, as far as.
Right. That was a highly requested thing with a lot of billionaires visiting the edit room.
Maybe the footage will eventually leak. We'll have to wait and see about. Now, let's talk about the Elon Musk character. He's really been ramped up. We were talking about this as we headed towards the end of season 2. All that building of him is coming to fruition now. They're essentially going all in. This last episode, we learned that he's getting an office in the White House, that his son, this little boy, is named X. They call him X. So that's a little bit weird. He also may be forming an alliance with the Baron Trump character, who many feel is also on the spectrum with the Musk character. Here's some footage of them hanging out here. And then they also have him doing a Nazi salute. So too much Elon, not enough Elon. What are your thoughts?
I think that this character is a great foil and ally. And I think we're going to see a lot of jealousy between the top billionaires, a lot of infighting.
Now, also under the radar, I thought this was brilliant that they bounced the Vivek Ramaswamy character out of this. Even though he's a billionaire, he also has brown skin. So it's like, okay, sorry, pal, you're a billionaire, but you are brown. Check back with us, I guess, when you're a trillionaire, right, pal? I mean,
yes, I think they can't disguise what they consider optics.
I want to do a speed round on some of the smaller things that have been going on in the background these last couple of episodes. Trump character, he's also become increasingly obsessed with this Greenland storyline they originally introduced in season 1. Are they going to finally fulfill it? And do we know for sure that he doesn't think the Panama Canal leads to Greenland?
Yes, I think there's some sort of geographic confusion here. I've seen scripts where the character says, let's get those damn Latinos out of Greenland. You know, I think we're meant to see maybe an up and back on some of these stories.
Yeah, I did get my hands on a first draft of an upcoming script where his obsession with Greenland is based on how he sees Greenland on a flat map. Essentially, what happens is the size of Greenland gets distorted because the map is flat, laid out on a table. And it looks much bigger than it is actually. So when you see a Greenland replica on a globe, it's much more closer to the size of Greenland. So I think he thinks that Greenland is this enormous, huge country that is the size of, almost the size of half of Canada, when in reality, that's a distortion from the map that he's looking at. So I did see a scene where he kept referencing Greenland They had removed all the maps from his Oval Office, and every time he pointed it out on a globe, he said, "Give me a fucking map. You shrunk my Greenland." It's almost like an Abbott and Costello type thing.
Well, it is a nod to history, too. There's a famous story of John F. Kennedy looking instead at an actual Rand McNally map, but one of John's drawings of Cuba, which had it larger than the United States, which explained his obsession with getting rid of Castro. You know, if you had on your border country larger than yours with somebody with a different ideology, you might be frightened.
Yes, and of course, famously, the very tense 13 days that Kennedy spent diffusing the Cuban Missile Crisis, 11 of those days were them begging him to look at a real map and not John's map. And then by the 12th day, he was like, "Oh, okay, forget it." And things dissipated quickly. Trump has been tormenting Canada lately, referring to Trudeau as the governor of Canada, and he's been referring to Canada as the 51st state. People think behind this is the storyline where Trudeau and the Melania figure were having an affair. What have you heard?
If we recall, Trudeau divorced an extremely beautiful wife, so I think we might see her enter as well. They don't just float these pretty characters in a show without, testing them and seeing that people like them. So we might see a threesome with these characters.
Last thing I want to touch on real quick, this now movement to rename the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America. We talked about the significance of renaming things coming up. I believe that maybe this is leading to another stream of revenue for the show, and that includes paying for signage within the show. So now it's going to be Gulf of America. Maybe it's Gulf of Citibank in the not too distant future. Your thoughts?
I think we're going to be looking at the Straits of Sobe or the mountain range of Kombucha. We're going to see endorsements on every natural landmark on the planet as we march towards making basically every country an American state.
When we come back, we're going to answer some questions that you, the listeners, have. That's right, Talking Trump Talk Back when we return. You're listening to Talking Trump, the American Emperor Aftershow. Hello, Talking Trump, the American Emperor Aftershow listeners. Thanks so much for listening and subscribing. We'll get right back with more show in just a minute. But before we do, just wanted to remind some of you that right here on the show at this very moment is an excellent place for a sponsor to run an ad. Just reach out to us on Instagram at American Emperor Aftershow or by email at AmericanEmperorPod@gmail.com and get your message or product out and associated with this amazing podcast. Hopefully there'll be some space left for you, BetterHelp or ZipRecruiter, because the high-powered sponsors are already claiming their territory.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Gary Walsh from Gary Walsh Sells Things his family owns. It's where you can get amazing deals on things because the people that own this stuff don't know I'm selling them. Let's get started. First, a margarita blender. Look at this beautiful margarita blender. Could you imagine putting a little tequila in this, a little ice, boom, you'll be sipping Margot Robbie's like it's your job, okay? That's great, you want that, you got that. I'll tell you what, my aunt probably has some salt in the kitchen. If you need some salt, if you buy it now, I'll throw the salt in for free. You get the salt for free. How about this beautiful lady's purse? Look at that. The artist Frida Kahlo. She might have even done this herself. This is absolutely unbelievable. Of course, you don't get what's inside the purse. That would be my aunt's personal information. But the outside, that's pretty fancy. Okay, that's pretty. I'll tell you what. If you buy the purse right now, I'll throw in this thermometer. Is it anal? Is it oil? Put it in your mouth and find out. And that's not all. Oh, and if you act right now, you have your chance at this beauty. That's right, a white-on-white, probably late 90s, early 2000s Hyundai Sonata. That's right, with a ballpark of around 185,000 miles. This thing is a steal. If you want it, you gotta act soon. I think my aunt's shift starts at 10. If you don't want it by then, let me know. I could probably shimmy out the catalytic converter later. Shit. And that's Gary Walsh. Sells things his family doesn't know he's selling. Try the number below. It's my brother Steve's until I get my shit back online. Either way, hit me up on Instagram. Thanks a lot.
All right, welcome back to Talking Trump, the American Emperor Aftershow. I'm with author, director, and pop culture critic, Mr. Tom Robb. Time now for the segment where we answer questions from you, the audience. This is Talking Trump, Talk Back. By the way, if you want to send us a question, hit us up on Instagram at American Emperor Aftershow. This question comes to us from Amy Howard of Athens, Georgia, and she asks, what the fuck is with the new Trump character and J.D. Vance character's headshots? Now, we've both seen these like new headshots that have come out, and I have to say they are fascinating. The Trump character completely dramatically lit. You know, as a fan of television, I always enjoyed when The Sopranos would come out and they would release that new image of the cast that would end up being on the DVD box or in posters across the country. It really set the tone for what we would expect on The Sopranos for each season. And I think that this is just clearly, it's a scary ass picture of the Trump character. From what I understand, it was taken perfectly timed with a flash of lightning, a floating storm that was approaching. You could see how they nailed it on that one.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And then the J.D. Vance character, if you look at his eyes, clearly they're doing a marriage of Dr. Manhattan from The Watchmen, and then just a very clearly what is a space alien. So to me, that says, wow, I hated this character, much like the rest of the country. He was detestable. But now are they going to pivot and make him an alien? And if that's the case, then I'm watching. If he rips his face off and it's like a throwback to the series V that was on NBC many years ago in the 80s, I'm all on board for that. That's the last question comes to us from Alex Glover of Modesto, California. He asks, from any of your inside sources, have you heard if the character of Trump or even if Sir Lawrence Davies himself has made any New Year's resolutions?
Lawrence Davies is a very complex man who has a deep moral center and a deep sense of self-improvement. I know from talking to him behind the scenes, he has made a vow to not taunt or stare at the ugly or infirm when he passes them on the streets, which, I think is a big ask for any of us, but I think Lawrence is committed to it.
You know that famously, because of his drinking, he's surgically implanted 2 livers. To me, there's a little bit of a self-realization in this. He is pledged in this year to cut down on his drinking so much that his second liver remains healthy. And I thought that was a tremendous realization and, a very worthy step towards addressing what clearly is a historic problem with regards to alcoholism.
Yeah, it's actually has a name. It's called the Hagman Vow. And
after the famous actor from Dallas and Andrew Gini.
Yeah, Larry Hagman vowed to not drink as much since he'd been given a new liver, somebody who tragically died in a car accident, though he would still drink quite a bit. So I got a letter, which I'm not used to, from Turk Domergue of Somerville, Mass, who writes, "You fucking snowflakes, who do you think you are? How dare you? The Trump season is going to have a 4th administration." I want to assure Turk, we are not political.
Nope.
If asked, we're both conservative. We treat this show as a work of art, and it has nothing to do with ideology or political positions. I come personally from the golden age of television, and just want things to go back to the way they were, make American television great again. So that's why I'm behind this series.
Yeah, and I think that if you look at the work that we've done in this podcast previous to these episodes, you'll find that we are in awe in many ways of the art that's being presented, the quality of the writing, the absolute majestic, boundless imagination of these people that put on this show. So don't shoot the messengers here, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's showing you a show that's truly turning American storytelling on its ear. Thank you for letting us do that. It's a privilege.
All right, stick with us, people. When we come back, we're going to close the show out with a few predictions of what to look out for next week. More Talking Trump, the American Emperor Aftershow, when we return. Welcome, everybody. This is Talking Trump, the American Emperor Aftershow. Right now, before we close out the show, a couple of quick predictions for upcoming weeks. Tom, I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you predict that we'll be seeing in an upcoming episode?
I think one of the writers hinted to me that the Trump character is fascinated with the idea of a biosphere, different environments within a different place. So I think what we're going to see within the White House is a temperate zone, a tropical zone. He's a lover of National Geographic, so I think we're going to see topless African tribesmen residing in one area, and Amazonian Indians in another, and desert animals in a third, so that you can walk through these different zones and be inspired. And I think that's something we're going to see.
Wow, that is fascinating, and I would love to see the Trump character's reaction to all that different wildlife, and also his commentary on what he actually thinks is an animal. And because of his background, just growing up in Queens and being in a corporate environment his entire life, like he may think a leaf is an animal. Could you imagine the discovery of a young child when they discover a dandelion and they blow and they see the different, it could be a beautiful moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And not cheap.
My prediction is we saw in the beginning of season 3, we saw an appearance by the George W. Bush character, who was a very wily and almost like eccentric type of figure within the rotunda, who smiled brightly and did a lot of quirky facial expressions. We don't know for sure because it's been so long since he's appeared, even was hinted at in the show's narrative, if he was actually there or not. And I believe, and my prediction is that the Trump character will have a whole day that we'll see him do a bunch of like Trump things. And then when he goes to bed, in his bedroom will be this figure of the George W. Bush character, filled with folksy sayings and funny facial tics. And he will take almost magically the Trump character on a journey that the audience will not know if it's fantasy or if it's reality throughout the world. And they'll stop at all different places. And the George W. Bush character will teach life lessons to the Trump character, whether it's clearing brush away, whether he visits a home that he destroyed in Iraq. It'll just be a real fun little excursion. And sometimes a show, when it's operating on such a broad scale like this show, sometimes they'll need an episode where they cut it down to 2 people. It's almost like a bottle episode, except this one will have a little bit of an excursion attached to it. But it's just 2 actors, and it's the Trump character and the George W. Bush character spending time together. And by the end of it, the Trump character, as is wont in his mind that's filled with sickness and madness, he won't know of whether he experienced is real or not.
I think that's great, and boy, would I love to see that. And we have a character constantly in search of a father figure, and this could be it.
And they'll paint together, they'll clear brush, they'll make, perhaps even the Bush character will teach the Trump character to be a little bit more folksy, and that'll be a humorous scene where the Trump character is so acidic in everything that he says, will try to bring in an axiom that's a folksy saying that it'll seem alien to him at first. It'll be a very enjoyable episode.
Very touched by an angel. Very Michael Landon. I love it.
All right, well, that's it for this episode, folks. For Tom Robb, I'm Christopher Lansing. Thanks for joining us, and please check out and subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. The links are in the show notes. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.